Welcome to Becoming, hosted by the Colorado State Employee Assistance Program. On this podcast, we interview state employees about how they adopted different mindsets that changed how they lived their lives. We hope these conversations inspire you to reflect on your own mindsets, which could help improve your overall mental health and well-being. Today, we are here with Beth. Beth, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much, Meta.
Great.
I'm nervous yet, but I'm very excited to be here. So thank you for this opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you being here and being on an episode of Becoming. Beth, before we dive into everything, can you tell me a little bit about your position with this state, what you're doing with us currently, maybe how you arrived to that role?
I've been with the state since 2016. I'm a business analyst, so I work with the Governor's Office of Information Technology. As a business analyst, I work with agencies. I'm kind of the liaison between a technical solution and then what the actual business wants, kind of identifying their needs so we can make sure that if they're working with a vendor, the vendor is doing what they need to do to deliver IT product, and or if we're building it internally, that it meets the needs of the business. So that's what I do in a nutshell. You know, working here at the state, which I love. I really enjoy being able to, because it's very collaborative here.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So, Beth, tell us about some of the traits that you wanted to highlight today, maybe just generally.
Yeah, sure. For me, it's resiliency, adaptability, and I think kindness and or grace.
How did you come to learn about the importance of these traits? If you can, maybe just take us through.
I didn't coming about these traits through anything great. I think going through life, everybody experiences ups and downs. For me, it was always something happens to you, you move forward. And, you get laid off from a job. Well, you say, you know what, you guys didn't deserve me anyway. And you go find something else, you just push forward. And, I was assaulted and it rocked my world. And I thought once the incident was over, it would be something that I would be able to, separate myself from and go, wow, okay, that's over with. I can move forward. And it didn't happen that way. One of the reasons why I'm here is because as a society, we recognize trauma and what's called trauma response or PTSD. And we, acknowledge it and we recognize it, in our armed forces, our veterans, first responders, those individuals who work in maybe corrections or law enforcement, healthcare professionals. And it's recognized and it's given a name and there's acknowledgement of it and then a structure maybe of how, we're going to label this and how we're going to work through it. Yeah. But for the rest of us, we don't recognize those. Or that was a bad yes, you went through that, but you're safe now. So why aren't you happy? Why, the world's your oyster. Go grab it.
So without focusing too much on the incident itself, maybe take us through like some of the processes that you had to undergo.
One of the main things I had to do was to not compare my trauma or how I was feeling to, let's say, I have in my family, we have veterans or active duty, so and say, well, yours is valid, mine isn't, yours is, and so that was hard for me because I first was like, this isn't trauma. I am a survivor. I got through this. So I don't want to think about these things and they come in my mind. Was the physiological response. And I didn't know that, again, I didn't know trauma had a physiological response.
Like you didn't know it lived in your body.
Correct.
Until you started to feel it.
Literally shaking, like chills, shaking. And I think the one that was the scariest for me was my heart racing. And there were times that I remember just putting my hand over my heart and saying, I'm sorry, heart. I'm sorry you're beating. Because I literally would think my heart would literally beat out of my chest at times because my heart would beat so hard and so heavy.
And so you did your research. You went and started seeing some folks.
Yes. And it was mainly just, talk. It was like, let's go, let's analyze, tell me your feelings about this, this, and this. And it didn't really move the needle for me at all. That's being adaptable. You have to, just let things kind of happen and go with it. And the next therapist I saw, totally different approach. We tried to do a guided meditation, and it didn't work for me, and it didn't work at all, and I didn't like it. She also introduced art therapy, which I was, because the talk therapy wasn't going anywhere. So as you're painting, as you're, modeling clay, and you're modeling a worry stone or whatever, a bowl or whatever you want to make, you're also talking. And so, it helps you not be so self-conscious about what you're saying. For me, that was very interesting. And I appreciated that. So, did that for a while, and just going to continue on with my life. And was still having, I guess, the symptoms I was having. I still would get triggered, and where I would, my heart would race quite a bit, or I would shallow breathe, or I'd shake, or just and so I had signed up, or been several years now, been with the State of Health Wellness Program. So, it was that time of year, I went in to get blood work done, and then to set up, this test and that, your yearly stuff. I was probably in there for, hour and a half. And that wasn't, the original, that wasn't the original appointment. I came out of it with, and something, what I didn't go in for. At that point in time, I said, I really can't deal with let me set up an appointment to get a, women's wellness. And she was like, okay, that's great. When you're ready, you're ready. Mm-hmm. And so the acknowledgement of what I was feeling, and that it was validated by a doctor, and that no, we need to address these, physical symptoms you're having, this trauma response. So we're going to come up with a plan. She said, you need to take a break. I didn't want to. I didn't want to, because number one, I didn't want what was going on with me inside to, affect, my job, and also I didn't want it to be a burden to any of my, cohorts, those that work on my team. I didn't want anybody to have to take over my work because of, what I was going through. I felt extremely guilty about it. And
it's okay. Take a breath. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that, resiliency is one, I guess, one of the things to talk about, and then adaptability. But the other thing is kindness. There was so much kindness and just grace given to me. There was no, when are you coming back? How long are you going to be out? When are you coming back? What is, it was, okay, take what you're working on and we'll assign it out. You go and you do what you need to do physically, emotionally, mentally, what have you. And this stuff will be here when you come back. To have that support and to not have to then think, I was letting anybody down, or what I'm trying to say was never a thing. And that made such a difference.
Yeah. It sounds like your team was not dismissive of what was going on. They were very supportive. They gave you the room that you needed, and then they welcomed you back when you were ready. So you took the time, you came back to work, and I think there's this misconception that the mainstream might portray trauma response, healing, that you cross a finish line. Is that true for you? Is there a finish line that you've crossed? Or?
Yeah, and that was something that I had to kind of come to grips with. Because for me, I thought there was a finish line, that there was this definitive, what is it? Kubler-Ross, 5 stages of grief or whatever, and there's got to be something like that for, trauma response or getting, but there isn't. So after the physician recommended I go see another therapist, this therapist who is more trauma based, or EMDR, which is eye movement, and you move your eyes different ways, and then the clinician who's trained walks you through a scenario, and that sounded really scary to me because it sounded like Clockwork Orange to me. It sounded really. I was like, was there electrodes involved? But I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. I'm thinking I'm going to come in, there's going to be somebody sitting there with a clipboard, and they're going to be like almost like, like doctor-ish, or they're going to have like, professor-ish.
A white coat on.
Yeah, a white coat, or they're going to have like, like shiny, brown shoes on or something, and get there, and I'm like, hi, get there, and there's my therapist there, and then there's this man who looked like he just like came off the beach. I mean, he had like flip-flops on, he had like faded jeans, he had a t-shirt on. And so I was like, okay, let's try this. So probably in the third go around, I had an epiphany going through what I went through, a piece that I never really, I guess, even wanted to acknowledge. I was extremely afraid of not surviving. So
this was the first time that came out.
Yes, it was the very first time. Something literally lifted inside of me. I could feel it lifting.
Feel it.
I could feel it. I could feel it lifting.
Yeah.
And with everybody, it's, you may do several sessions, one session, 10 sessions, it really all depends on, everybody. But the thing I thought would help me the least was what I thought helped me the most.
Yeah. That's amazing. So in closing, Beth, is there anything that you might want to impart to viewers and listeners, regarding your story or regarding some of the traits that you've highlighted today?
I would say be open to trying new things. It's going to be a journey. Just, we've had Hurricane Helene, and there's a hurricane, and there's, you're like, I made it through the hurricane, but there's the devastation left behind. That's what trauma response is. It's what's left behind. How do you rebuild? And whatever you rebuild, is it going to look the same as what you had before? Because whatever that you went through, the trauma, it's left something in its wake. And I know this was another, I think, word we talked about, but yielding, I'm yielding. I'm not going to fight this anymore. I'm yielding to it, and I will work through what I need to work through as I feel comfortable working through it. And I'm just going to focus on today, and that's okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Beth, for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We're grateful for your vulnerability and for highlighting how you found resiliency, adaptability, and kindness. We hope it inspires others to connect with these traits in their own lives.
You're welcome. Thank you, Meta.